She was born Norma Jeane Mortenson, a little girl no one noticed, drifting from home to home, longing for love she could never keep. From the shadows of loneliness, she would rise to become one of the most captivating women the world has ever known. Marilyn Monroe. Her smile could stop hearts. Her presence could fill a room. On screen, she dazzled millions. Behind it, she struggled with heartbreak, fear, and loneliness that fame could never erase. In this video, we'll take you through her incredible journey, from a troubled childhood to the moment that changed her life, from her rise in Hollywood to the films that made her immortal, and the personal struggles that haunted her behind the cameras. We'll even explore the mystery of her untimely death at just 36, conspiracy theories, rumors, and unanswered questions that have fascinated the world for decades. This is the mystery behind the tragic death of Marilyn Monroe, the untold story you have never heard before. Before the world knew her as Marilyn Monroe, she was simply a little girl named Norma Jeane Mortenson, born in 1926 in Los Angeles, a child whose life began not with warmth and certainty, but with confusion and quiet neglect. From the very start, stability was something she never truly had. Her father was absent, a figure she would never come to know, and her mother, Gladys, struggled deeply with mental illness. Though there were moments when her mother tried to hold things together, they were fleeting, fragile, and often overshadowed by instability. Eventually, the situation worsened, and Gladys was institutionalized, leaving Norma Jeane alone in a world she was far too young to understand. What followed was not a childhood in the traditional sense, but a series of temporary existences. She was moved from one foster home to another, never staying long enough to feel safe, never long enough to feel wanted. Each new place came with unfamiliar faces, different expectations, and the quiet, lingering fear that she could be sent away at any moment. For a child, this constant uprooting created a deep emotional uncertainty, a feeling that nothing in life was permanent, and that love, when it came, could just as easily disappear. At times, she found kindness, brief moments where she was cared for, but these moments were inconsistent. In other homes, she felt invisible, like a guest in a life that was never truly hers. And invisibility, for a child, can be just as painful as rejection. It slowly teaches you to shrink, to speak less, to expect less. Eventually, Norma Jeane was placed in an orphanage, a place meant to provide shelter, but not always the emotional warmth a child needs. Surrounded by many, she still felt alone. She would watch other children, listen to their stories, and quietly wonder why her life felt so different. Why she had no one to return to. Why she had no place that truly felt like home. Yet, within that loneliness, something quietly endured. Despite the instability, despite the absence of love and security, there remained within her a small, unspoken resilience. She did not yet know who she would become, nor could she imagine the world that would one day know her name. But even in those early years, shaped by uncertainty and hardship, there was a part of her that refused to disappear completely. As Norma Jeane grew older, life did not become easier, it simply became more familiar in its uncertainty. By her teenage years, she had already learned lessons most people take a lifetime to understand, that stability was never guaranteed, and that sometimes survival meant making difficult choices long before you were ready. Still living in Los Angeles and moving between guardians, she reached a turning point at just 16 years old. The family she was staying with was preparing to move away, and once again, the same threat loomed over her life, the possibility of being sent back to the orphanage. For Norma Jeane, the orphanage was more than just a place. It represented abandonment, loneliness, and the painful reminder that she had no permanent place in the world. She could not bear the thought of returning. So she made a decision. She got married. Her husband, James Doherty, was a neighbor, kind, stable, and willing to offer her something she had never truly had before, security. But this was not a marriage built on love or deep connection. It was a choice born out of necessity, a way to escape a life that seemed determined to keep pushing her aside. In many ways, she was still a child, stepping into an adult life she did not fully understand. At first, she tried to adapt. She played the role expected of her, a young housewife, staying home while her husband worked. From the outside, it may have seemed like she had finally found stability. A home. A place to belong. But inside, something felt incomplete. The quiet loneliness she had carried since childhood did not disappear. It simply changed form. Instead of moving from house to house, she now found herself confined within a life that did not reflect who she truly was. There was a growing restlessness within her, a feeling she could not yet explain. It wasn't dissatisfaction alone, it was something deeper. A sense that her story had not yet fully begun. She would often find herself staring into the distance, wondering if there was more to life than the path she had taken. More than survival. More than simply existing. And though she did not yet know it, the world was slowly preparing to answer that question. Because beyond the quiet routine of her daily life, change was approaching, unexpected, life-altering, and impossible to ignore. A single moment, a single opportunity, was about to pull Norma Jeane out of the shadows and set her on a path that would transform her into someone the world would never forget. Life often changes not in grand, predictable ways, but in quiet, unexpected moments. For Norma Jeane, that moment arrived during World War II. With her husband away serving in the military, she found herself working in a factory in California, contributing to the war effort like many women of her generation. Day after day, she performed routine tasks, far removed from anything that resembled dreams or ambition. At that point, she was still living an ordinary life. Still unseen. Still unknown. But destiny has a way of finding people when they least expect it. One day, a photographer visited the factory. His assignment was simple: capture images of women supporting the war effort, strong, hardworking, patriotic. As he moved through the factory, his camera searching for subjects, something caught his attention. It was her. Norma Jeane. There was something different about her presence, something that could not be easily explained. It wasn't just her appearance, though she was striking. It was something deeper. A natural softness combined with a quiet strength. A face that seemed to tell a story without saying a word. He asked to take her photograph. At first, she was unsure. She wasn't used to being seen, let alone admired. But she agreed. And in that instant, standing under the factory lights, surrounded by machines and noise, something shifted. The camera captured more than an image. It captured possibility. When she saw the photographs, something awakened inside her. For the first time, she began to see herself differently. Not as the forgotten child, not as the girl passed from home to home, but as someone who could become something more. That single encounter opened a door. She began modeling, starting small, learning as she went. With every photo shoot, her confidence grew. She studied her angles, her expressions, her presence. She wasn't just posing, she was transforming. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't just surviving. She was stepping into her own identity. Yet, this new path came with a cost. The life she had known, her marriage, her routine, her sense of safety, began to drift away. The more she moved toward this new world, the more she realized she could not stay where she was. She had to choose between the life she had and the life she felt calling her forward. She chose the unknown. And with that decision, Norma Jeane took her first real step toward becoming the woman the world would one day know as Marilyn Monroe. A name that, at that moment, did not yet exist, but was already beginning to take shape. The transition from Norma Jeane to Marilyn Monroe was not instant. It was a process carefully shaped by ambition, opportunity, and the unforgiving demands of Hollywood. As her modeling career began to grow, Norma Jeane quickly realized that talent alone was not enough. The world she was stepping into required reinvention. It demanded more than who she was, it demanded who she could become. So she began to change. Her brown hair was dyed a striking blonde, a look that would soon become iconic. She refined her appearance, studied the expressions that captivated cameras, and learned how to carry herself with confidence even on days when she didn't feel it. But the transformation went deeper than appearance. She practiced her voice, softening it into the breathy tone that would later define her image. She studied acting, determined to prove that she was more than just a face in front of a camera. She observed others, learned quickly, and worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Norma Jeane was not simply becoming someone new. She was creating someone. In 1946, she signed her first film contract. It was then that her name was changed. Marilyn was inspired by a Broadway star, and Monroe was her mother's maiden name, a subtle connection to the past she never fully left behind. And just like that, Norma Jeane Mortenson began to fade into the background. In her place stood Marilyn Monroe. But becoming Marilyn was not as glamorous as it seemed. Behind the cameras and bright lights was a world filled with rejection and uncertainty. Early in her acting career, she struggled to find meaningful roles. Studios often saw her as just another pretty face, someone to be admired, but not taken seriously. She was typecast, underestimated, and sometimes overlooked. Yet she refused to accept that as her destiny. While others doubted her, she continued to study acting, pushing herself to improve. She spent hours reading scripts, analyzing performances, and searching for ways to bring depth to her roles. She wanted more than fame. She wanted respect. Slowly, her persistence began to pay off. Small roles turned into bigger opportunities. Her presence on screen became harder to ignore. There was something about her, a unique blend of vulnerability and magnetism, that audiences couldn't quite explain, but couldn't resist either. The world was beginning to notice, but even as her star began to rise, the line between Norma Jeane and Marilyn Monroe started to blur. The more she stepped into this new identity, the more she felt the pressure to live up to it, every smile, every movement, every word carefully watched and judged. She had created Marilyn Monroe. But now, she had to become her completely. And as the spotlight grew brighter, so did the expectations. Because Hollywood doesn't just create stars. It tests them. And Marilyn Monroe was about to face the true cost of becoming one. By the early 1950s, Marilyn Monroe was no longer just a rising name, she was becoming a force that Hollywood could no longer ignore. The small roles that once defined her career began to fade into the background as bigger opportunities emerged. Directors started to notice her presence on screen, and audiences were drawn to her in a way that felt almost magnetic. There was something about her that stood out. It wasn't just beauty, Hollywood had seen beauty before. It was the way she combined innocence with confidence, vulnerability with charm. She had the rare ability to make people feel something, even in the simplest moments. And soon, that presence translated into stardom. Her breakthrough came with films that would define an era. In Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, she dazzled audiences with her performance, delivering charm, humor, and unforgettable scenes that cemented her place in Hollywood. Around the same time, her roles continued to grow, each one building her reputation as more than just a supporting actress. Then came Some Like It Hot, a film that would later be regarded as one of the greatest comedies of all time. Her performance proved that she wasn't just a symbol of beauty, she had timing, depth, and undeniable talent. With each success, her name spread further. Magazines featured her face. Studios invested in her image. Fans across the world became captivated by her. She was no longer trying to be seen. She was everywhere. But fame came with expectations. Hollywood began to shape her into a specific image, the glamorous blonde, playful and seductive, always smiling, always perfect. It was an image that sold films, attracted audiences, and made money. But it was also limiting. Because behind that carefully crafted image was a woman who wanted to be taken seriously. Marilyn longed to prove that she was more than the roles she was given. She studied acting intensely, even attending classes to refine her craft, determined to grow beyond what the industry expected of her. She wasn't satisfied with being admired. She wanted to be respected. Yet, the more famous she became, the harder it was to escape the image that had made her a star. Every performance was judged. Every decision was scrutinized. Every flaw was magnified. The world saw perfection. But Marilyn saw pressure. Still, she continued to rise. Her name became synonymous with Hollywood itself. She wasn't just part of the industry anymore, she was one of its brightest stars. But as her fame reached new heights, something else began to grow quietly beneath the surface. A tension between who she was and who the world expected her to be. And that tension would soon begin to take its toll. Because while Hollywood had finally embraced Marilyn Monroe, it had not yet understood her. By the time Marilyn Monroe reached the peak of her fame, she had everything the world could offer: wealth, recognition, admiration, and a level of influence few could ever imagine. And yet, she had never felt more alone. From the outside, her life appeared perfect. Cameras followed her every move, fans adored her, and Hollywood celebrated her as its brightest star. But behind the glowing lights and carefully crafted image, there was a different reality, one that few people truly saw. Marilyn carried within her a quiet, persistent emptiness. It was the same feeling she had known as a child. The same unanswered longing for connection, for stability, for something real. Fame had changed her life, but it had not healed her. In crowded rooms filled with laughter and conversation, she often felt invisible. Surrounded by people, she struggled to trust their intentions. Were they there for her, or for the image she represented? It became harder to tell. The more famous she became, the more distant genuine relationships seemed. Conversations felt shallow, connections felt temporary, and the fear of being misunderstood followed her everywhere. Her personal life reflected this struggle. Her marriage to baseball legend Joe DiMaggio began with promise but quickly fell apart under the weight of fame and conflicting expectations. DiMaggio admired her, but he struggled with the intense public attention that surrounded her life. Their differences created tension, and eventually, the relationship ended. Later, she married playwright Arthur Miller, hoping for something deeper, something intellectual and emotionally fulfilling. For a time, it seemed she had found it. But even that relationship could not withstand the pressures of her world. Once again, it ended in heartbreak. With each failed relationship, the sense of isolation grew stronger. She began to question herself. Was she too much? Or not enough? Was she loved for who she truly was, or only for who she appeared to be? Sleep became difficult. Nights stretched endlessly, filled with restless thoughts. Anxiety crept in, slowly but steadily, making it harder for her to find peace even in moments of silence. To cope, she turned to medication, something that would later become a dangerous dependency. What began as a way to manage stress and exhaustion slowly turned into something more consuming. Despite all of this, she continued to perform. She continued to smile. She continued to be Marilyn Monroe, the woman the world expected to see. But inside, the weight of that identity was becoming harder to carry. Because the truth was simple, yet deeply painful, the world loved Marilyn Monroe. But very few people ever truly knew Norma Jeane. And as that gap between image and reality widened, the loneliness she had carried since childhood began to return, stronger than ever. This time, however, she could not run from it. And it was slowly pulling her deeper into a place she could no longer control. As the world continued to celebrate Marilyn Monroe, the weight of being her was becoming almost unbearable. Fame had given her everything she once lacked: recognition, admiration, a place in the world. But it had also taken something in return: her peace. By the late 1950s and early 1960s, the pressure surrounding Marilyn had reached a breaking point. Every film, every appearance, every word she spoke was scrutinized. The studios expected perfection. The public demanded consistency. There was no room for mistakes. No space to simply be human. And yet, behind that expectation, she was struggling more than ever. Arriving late on set became frequent. Sometimes, she didn't show up at all. Directors grew frustrated, producers lost patience, and whispers began to spread across Hollywood. She's difficult. She's unreliable. But few stopped to ask why. Because behind those headlines was a woman battling exhaustion, anxiety, and a deep emotional weight she could no longer carry alone. She still cared deeply about her work, perhaps more than ever. But that was part of the problem. She wanted every performance to be perfect. She feared failure. She feared not being taken seriously. And that fear began to paralyze her. Even the simplest scenes could become overwhelming. Multiple retakes. Long pauses. Moments of self-doubt. It wasn't lack of talent, it was the pressure of expectation crushing her from within. Her dependence on medication grew stronger. What had once helped her sleep now became something she relied on just to function. Doctors prescribed pills to calm her, to wake her, to help her cope. But instead of healing her, they blurred the lines between reality and escape. Professionally, cracks began to show. During the production of The Misfits, tensions ran high. The film, written by Arthur Miller, was deeply personal, and Marilyn poured herself into the role. But behind the scenes, she was struggling. Emotionally, physically, mentally. The performance was powerful, but it came at a cost. The stronger she tried to appear, the more fragile she became inside. Because the truth was, she was no longer just playing a role on screen. She was living one. Every day. The line between Marilyn Monroe and Norma Jeane had almost completely disappeared. And without that separation, she began to lose herself. Those closest to her started to worry. They saw the signs, the exhaustion, the dependence, the emotional swings. But in a world driven by success and image, concern often came too late. Because by then, Marilyn was no longer just under pressure. She was breaking beneath it. And as her world continued to close in around her, one thing became painfully clear: even the brightest stars can begin to fade. On August 5, 1962, the world awoke to shocking news. Marilyn Monroe had passed away at just 36 years old. The bright, golden-haired star who had captivated millions was gone, suddenly, tragically, and forever. For many, it was impossible to reconcile. How could someone so luminous, so full of life on screen, vanish from the world so young? The headlines were filled with speculation about her struggles, her relationships, her mental health, but none of it captured the truth. Behind the glamour and fame, Marilyn had been a woman searching for what we all search for: love, acceptance, and peace. She had known rejection as a child, heartbreak as an adult, and the crushing weight of expectation as a star. Yet, despite it all, she had never stopped striving to shine. Her death was mourned worldwide. Almost immediately, speculations began uncovering her untimely demise. The sudden death of Marilyn Monroe on August 5, 1962, shocked the world. At just 36 years old, the golden-haired star who had captivated millions was gone, leaving fans, friends, and the media searching for answers. The official investigation declared her death a probable suicide caused by an overdose of barbiturates, and later reviews reaffirmed that there was no credible evidence of foul play. Yet, despite this conclusion, Marilyn's death has remained one of the most persistent subjects of speculation and conspiracy theories in modern history. Among the earliest and most enduring theories are those linked to the Kennedy family. Marilyn's alleged relationships with President John F. Kennedy and his brother, Attorney General Robert F. Kennedy, have long fueled speculation. Some theorists claim she was silenced to prevent her from revealing private information about the Kennedys or compromising political secrets. Versions of this theory suggest that her death was staged to look like a suicide, implicating powerful figures in government or Hollywood. However, historians and biographers who have examined these claims generally consider them unsubstantiated, noting that much of the speculation relies on anecdotal evidence and rumors rather than documented facts. Another frequently cited explanation involves organized crime. Some theorists allege that figures in the mafia, such as Sam Giancana, orchestrated her death to protect themselves or their connections to powerful people. These theories often suggest that hitmen administered drugs or manipulated the scene to appear as a suicide. Yet, despite decades of discussion, investigators and researchers have found no credible proof that organized crime played any role in Marilyn's death. Many of the alleged clues cited by conspiracy theorists, including alleged bruises or missing documents, have been contested or debunked. A third set of theories focuses on individuals in her immediate professional circle. Some suggest that her doctors or psychiatrists may have played a role, either through negligence or intentional cover-up, possibly to hide mistakes or protect reputations. These ideas stem from perceived inconsistencies in witness statements or the timeline of her death. While such claims have fueled speculation, repeated investigations have confirmed that the autopsy and coroner's reports were thorough and reliable, leaving no evidence to support professional misconduct as a cause of her death. Beyond these, even more outlandish ideas have emerged over the years. Some suggest that Marilyn was targeted by the CIA due to her alleged knowledge of government secrets, including claims related to national security or even UFOs. Others posit that she did not die at her home but elsewhere, and that her death was staged to conceal the truth. Fringe theories even claim she survived and lived in secret after her supposed death. These speculations, however, are not grounded in credible evidence and are widely dismissed by historians. The persistence of these theories can be attributed to several factors. Marilyn Monroe's fame and mystique make her life a natural target for speculation. Ultimately, while Marilyn Monroe's death remains officially classified as a probable suicide due to barbiturate overdose, the surrounding speculation has become part of her enduring legacy. The mystery, the tragedy, and the glamour of her life ensure that stories about her death continue to captivate public imagination. More than 50 years, the questions surrounding Marilyn Monroe's death remains one of Hollywood's unsolved mysteries. Books, documentaries, and public-private investigations have all tried to uncover exactly what happened that night, but the definitive answer remains elusive. Though Marilyn Monroe left the world far too soon, her life and story continue to inspire millions. Beyond the glitz, the glamour, and the fame, Marilyn represents something far deeper: the triumph of resilience, the power of transformation, and the fragility of human experience. From a childhood defined by instability and abandonment, she rose to become one of the most recognized women in the world. She transformed from Norma Jeane Mortenson, a lonely and overlooked child, into Marilyn Monroe, a figure who symbolized beauty, charisma, and aspiration. Her journey reminds us that even in the face of hardship, it is possible to reinvent oneself and create a life that commands attention. Yet Marilyn's story is not just about success, it is also about vulnerability. Behind every radiant smile was a woman who battled anxiety, loneliness, and self-doubt. Her struggles humanize her, reminding us that no amount of fame or admiration can erase the inner challenges we face. In many ways, her life serves as a mirror for anyone striving to overcome personal obstacles while navigating societal pressures. Her influence extends beyond cinema. Marilyn Monroe became a cultural icon whose image, persona, and story continue to inspire art, fashion, and storytelling. She challenged the limitations placed on women in her era, proving that vulnerability and strength can coexist. Her life encourages us to confront our fears, pursue our ambitions relentlessly, and embrace both our light and our shadows. Perhaps the most lasting lesson from her life is the importance of empathy. Marilyn's story teaches that behind every public triumph, there may be private struggles, and that compassion is essential when looking at the lives of others. Her legacy endures not because of scandal or speculation, but because she embodied the complexity of human experience, beauty intertwined with pain, hope intertwined with loss, and resilience intertwined with vulnerability. To this day, decades after her death, Marilyn Monroe continues to captivate hearts and minds. She is a symbol of perseverance, a reminder that greatness can emerge from the most difficult beginnings, and that our stories, no matter how challenging, can leave a lasting impact on the world. That's the inspirational story of Marilyn Monroe. If you were moved by this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Inspirational People for more powerful stories that inspire and change lives. And remember, as we learn from the past and tell these stories, let's also protect our future, save the planet, because it's the only home we have.